to The Slab. I'm Angie.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Michael. We're here in San Antonio, and we're so excited to feature Michael of San Antonio Video Productions to join us in talking all things video. And so if you are listening to this on your favorite app, just remember you can also view us online at youtube.com/@slabvisuals. So we're gonna jump right into it today. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah. So if you don't mind giving us a little bit of background, because it's always interesting to hear how people got into video production.
Sure.
Yeah, so I always tell clients, I've been doing this probably about 10 years. My own business, we just got into our 4th year. So when I was like in middle school, my family used to own like pretty much my mom and my sister, they had a photography business and they shot photos for weddings, quinceañeras, and they brought me on as a videographer just for free video, just to like learn it. And then it wasn't until like high school that I got pretty much like a passion for filmmaking and movie making and movies, and I've always wanted to be in the movies. Lord of the Rings was like my biggest, like the behind the scenes for Lord of the Rings was like my favorite thing in the world. So I've always wanted to be a part of that world. And then I, went to college for it, and then I started freelancing, did a lot of freelancing. I landed a network job in New Braunfels for about 3 years, and then I was like, you know what, I could do this on my own. And then I started doing it on my own. I eventually left that job, and here I am. I've been full-time for 4 years now.
That is
San
awesome.
Antonio.
Yes, nice. Wonderful. Congratulations. That's a big leap to take too, to go from like this, the background that you have of that interest, and then working for someone, and then going like, I can do this. And it's not easy. Not everybody can, right?
No, it was definitely like, I would be working 5 days a week until like 6 p.m. And when I got home, I'd be working on, my website, my portfolio. Yes. And on the weekends, I'd do 1 gig at a time. And then when I was transitioning out, I told my boss, hey, can I go from 5 days a week down to 3 days, so that way I can do this. And he
build up your business.
And he was very gracious enough to help me exit. I mean, it was a small company. It was a 5-person company, and they produced 2 TV shows. So I had a lot of experience in the administrative side, in the back end on that, managing their YouTube channel, their website. And then on my 2nd or 3rd year, I produced 2 shows for them, 2 seasons pretty much of their show. And then just started getting more and more work, and I was like, I can exit at November and just do this full time. So it was very much a very strategic exit. Yes. So I didn't just like work had to be coming in. It was to where I was just working 24/7. No time to sleep. I was editing in the middle of the night. Yes. And I was like, I have to leave the other job.
Yeah, it was time. Yeah,
for sure.
That's awesome. And I think, you mentioned the administrative side, and I think that is such an important underpinning to going into your own business. I think a lot of people, and this might be just people that are really working towards getting their creative work out there, whatever their artistry is. In this case, it's video, but you don't always have that marriage between the administrative and business side of things and the creative. And so
for sure,
that sounds like that impacted you.
I mean, honestly, like, I always tell newcomers, like, if you want to do this full time, like 90% of the work is the administrative, marketing yourself, contracts, finding leads, generating leads, and about 10% of it is the actual shooting and the editing.
Yes.
And that's definitely the fun part for a lot of people. It kind of deflates them when they hear that, but that's like the truth of it. Like, if you don't have, especially when you're starting out, like if you don't have systems in place to where leads are just coming in day out, then that is something you have to constantly be working on.
Yes.
So that's definitely.
Well, and it's a kind thing to share with people too, because to not have the veil over their eyes when they're like, I'm just going to go out and do my own thing, and not have the reality that you also have to be your bookkeeper, you also have to be your administrator, you have to be your accountant, like
your sales guy.
Their sales guy, yes, your strategist,
the social media manager.
Yes,
you have to be everything.
Yeah, and they had to do that for many, many years. Like, I don't know, just like that same transition.
It was exhausting. It was kind of like, juggling and like picking which ball you're gonna drop, so that you can keep the other ones in the air sometimes, and yeah.
Yeah, because that's not your forte, right? Like it's just the administrative wasn't I think there's some people that like, just depending on your mindset and maybe whatever your background or baggage or whatever that might be, you go, like I guess almost like a trigger for you when you're doing this like administrative stuff and it feels wrong, because I would do this art for free because it's just so much part of who I am. And to be able to enter into the business world, you have to be willing to go like, nope, I need to increase my rates if I want to make a profit margin.
Right.
And a lot of creatives aren't motivated by the profit margin. They're motivated by the passion,
Oh, yeah.
and
I don't blame any of the freelancers that I work with that don't want to become salespeople, that don't want to become business people. You are passionate about the creative side, or you are passionate about the business side.
Yes.
I consider myself very lucky to be passionate in both.
Yeah.
I am motivated by all of the tech that I use. I'm motivated by the stories that I tell, but I'm also motivated about making money. Like,
Yes.
like
Yes.
I like both motivate me equally as much. But
a nice balance.
everybody that I walk into, it's either one or the other, and very rarely do you find someone special that's like you're both.
Yep.
Which is really cool. Like learning from you guys, like to have a team. Like my wife is completely like, as soon as she gets home, she doesn't want to work. And that's fine. She cuts hair for a living. She's totally okay being like worker bee, and she's like, you can be motivated. You can work till 9 or 10 p.m. That's you. And I'm like that's fine. Some people just, that's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Like I'm the odd one out. Like it's totally fine.
Yes.
But I think it's really cool that like, you're creative, you're admin. Like that is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good balance. We're just fortunate that we're wired that way. I don't recommend couples working together, like as a default.
It has a lot of challenges.
Yeah. And we've
We're
embraced
gonna do an
those.
episode on that, I think, about that.
But going in again with open eyes for that, that's probably a whole nother episode. But and I think in leadership in general, like it's all about playing to strengths. Like we can only level up our weaknesses and other people's weaknesses like marginally, but if we play to our strengths of what I do naturally well and I'm passionate about and he does naturally well, rather than trying to force you to fit the mold. So it is unique, and it's just a wonderful thing when you have that balance and that marriage that just works really well together.
It's a great balance to have. You guys definitely complete each other in that aspect, but there's probably also stuff that you don't realize as well too. So me doing this on my own, I don't have anybody to brainstorm with. Brainstorming is huge.
Yes.
Teamwork is also huge.
Yeah.
Being able to, both of you guys work with a single client is good. Like I'm sure you can take client calls. I'm sure you can take client calls. Nobody in my business can take a client call except me, So there's a lot of benefits to having just somebody to bring. My brainstorming partner is ChatGPT. like as soon as like ChatGPT rolled out, I'm like, this is
someone to talk to.
I was like, this is a godsend. Like just to bounce ideas off of, just to like fix processes, just to create spreadsheets, create formula. It's been a huge help.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting you bring that up, because I feel like a lot of people are bemoaning the fact that ChatGPT came around and that it's going to take jobs, but I think the thing that's lesser talked about is how it has enhanced workflows, especially for like smaller companies or one-man band style productions. I mean, we've used it quite a bit. I mean, even for case in point for this trip, when we were looking at how to structure out a social media strategy for what we want to post about, coming to San Antonio from Spokane.
I just put in a prompt and said give me a campaign for Instagram for a married couple going to San Antonio for a video gig.
Yep.
And it popped out stuff, and then I can just make it my own.
Iterate.
And
You don't
absolutely.
have to use it verbatim. You can modify it.
Yeah,
but it's inspiration
voice,
when
but it gives you the bones of what you want to build.
It's definitely one of the most powerful tools I've ever used, and it's definitely progressed my business by a lot. When I was starting out, I would always tell people like, hey, if you don't know something, you can always Google it or learn something on YouTube. Now you can just type something in and get the answer. Now you can bounce ideas off of it. And AI has really helped a lot. Like recently, I just did a gig for Alamo Fireworks here, and they're a company that they've been around for over 50 years now. and they wanted an About Us video. So I did training videos for them, but they also wanted an About Us video. They didn't have any material, they just had a script. So I took that script, I ran it through, like pretty much sectioned everything off, generated images with MidJourney, and told MidJourney AI to basically also make it to where it's in a cartoon style and multiplane. And I cut it in, you know, each image into 3 pieces and animated them at different times and made it look like it was like a Discovery Channel thing. That was all done by one person in like 2 days.
Wow.
Like it was literally like, it's something that would have taken an entire team to do back then. And then for their training videos, they had sent me 2 PowerPoints, and each of those PowerPoints were 60 slides a piece. And they also sent me another video that they had done in the past that was a 40-minute video. And they said, we want a complete overhaul of our content, and we just want, you know, 14 videos. So I took basically I blocked out the topic for each 14 videos, but I took all the text and all the text from that video, I converted it to a PDF, uploaded it to ChatGPT, and then I could basically break it out from there and ask questions and create scripts specifically just from there. And I was just like, you know, talk to me about safety regulations with fireworks. ChatGPT would make the entire script for me, and I just iterate on it, and literally took all, you know, that took like another day or 2. You know, it was super quick. So it's a very powerful tool. Very powerful.
Well, if any of those are public domain at this point, we would love to link that in our podcast, because
they're on the website.
it's a great visual. Yes,
Yeah, in the
absolutely.
description.
What a
Yeah,
great
put it
use
there.
case for AI. You know,
Yeah.
just that's phenomenal. Yeah, so cool.
I'm gonna have you move your necklace from the microphone.
Oh, yes, it keeps inching over. So I am curious if you were able to describe kind of like your approach to video production, and maybe like what your style is like for you. Like, we do everything for our clients that they need, of course, but like what's generally your approach to video production? And
So my approach starts pretty much, I would say, back in the sales call or the phone call or the discovery call. I figure out what their goals are and who they're trying to target. And then depending on who they're trying to target, that's where the video transforms pretty drastically. So like recently I had a Lackland Air Force Base. They're putting out a bid, and they needed to promote, well, it wasn't Lackland, it was the 149th Fighter Wing. So they put out a bid, and they need to, you know, pretty much market, you know, come join the Air Force.
Right.
And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, okay, who are you trying to get? And they're like, well, anybody from 17 to 40. And I'm like, well, 17-year-olds are different than 40-year-olds. They're gonna respond differently. So pretty much you know, my production process is based off of that, and then we just pull out the, you know, we target each one, and then that's pretty much, you know, we pull out, you know, whether it's going to be a script, voiceover, narration, and then that's how we, you know, start the process. So I would say my style is, you know, in terms of style, I don't really have one, but it's more towards what's going to get the best ROI for my client. That's like the top goal is ROI.
And I hear that in almost every single answer, is that you have a very strategic approach to the long term, right? Like, of what ultimately is going to be the best. It's not in this moment of what's comfortable. And I think that's kind of a downfall for some people, is like, I'm going to only stay within my comfort zone. And a lot of times projects will put you out of that, where you have to learn something new. I mean, here you are on using AI to stitch together these things. Like, that versatility and flexibility is clincher for anybody in production. So that's so cool. Okay, so let's talk shop a little bit and about gear, because I've been looking forward to this part. You know, what are you filming on now, and how did you get to that decision?
Okay, yeah. So right now I'm currently on Sony cameras. My A camera is the FX3, and I have 2 FX30s as my B cameras. I've been wanting to get to a third FX30, but pretty much right now it's Sony. I started on, well, officially I started on Sony, but like in terms of like real work that I got done, I started on Blackmagic. I was on the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I was on there for probably 3 years in my first career, or during my career at, you know, with the network show. In the past, it was definitely Blackmagic. That was a huge thing. I love the price point of Blackmagic cameras. B-RAW was incredible. 12-bit color, amazing. There's a lot of benefits to Blackmagic.
Sure.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And I was huge on manual focusing too. I never wanted to do autofocus, never liked it.
Yeah.
I always looked down on people. I was like, oh, you're autofocus. Why?
And
Like,
then
you don't
things
need that.
change.
Just get a follow focus.
Yes, yeah.
My biggest switch from Blackmagic, I went from Blackmagic to Panasonic, then very quickly to Sony.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest catalyst was volume. So once you start shooting a ton,
Mm-hmm.
Blackmagic data adds up really fast,
Yes. Yes.
super fast, and data storage was just climbing and climbing. And then there was also like workflows that I had to implement to be able to reduce the cost of that. So if I had, 2021 I had 100 projects. I would come home from a wedding with 500 gigs or 750 gigs. You'd come home with nearly a terabyte of footage. Sometimes I had 1 gig that I came home with 2 terabytes because it was a 4-day conference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine in the short term. You can edit with that, and it works wonders with your editing program because it's uncompressed. I know B-RAW compresses down to like 12:1, but for the most part it's uncompressed because it's so huge.
Yes.
But when you want to archive and you want to give your clients the ability to go back years and open up a project, edit it, send them a new revision, because clients change their minds, or clients change staff or change branding. You want to give them that option. So I had to develop a workflow to archive projects that were completed.
Yep.
So I would transcode all of the files to a smaller file format. So it would take like a terabyte and transcode it all the way down to like 200 gigs, which saved a lot, but it would still
The labor. Yeah.
the time to do that, and just storage costs in general. So that's why I was like, I still stuck with Micro Four Thirds. I went to the GH5s, the GH4, GH5s, and then GH6s. Sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath. But like I went to GH6s. GH6s were awesome. And then it was just another thing where I'm wasting time now on low light and trying to save noisy footage with Micro Four Thirds. I'm wasting time with adapters. I need to get past adapters, and I need to get past low light. And then I really liked also the dual recording. So GH6 can do dual recording. That was awesome. That was like another big reason why I went from Blackmagic to Panasonic, was the dual recording. And then also GH6 came with size. So a Micro Four Thirds camera, like the GH6, was much bigger. I had to use a lot of adapters because I went to EF glass, so to get better low light. So everything was just bigger.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, now it's like, it's like I traded one set of problems for another. My storage costs definitely lowered. And then when I looked into Sony, everything was smaller. The low light was fixed, and because of full frame, and then it could still dual record. And the workflow was the exact same as my 6K. So I used to have I went from Blackmagic to the 6K Pro, but the workflow is exactly the same because it basically has the 2 native dual ISO, so it's kind of very similar to the dual native ISO and Blackmagic cameras. So it was very easy to switch, but it's just about saving money. At the end of the day, saving money and saving time was the biggest reason why I moved from Blackmagic.
Absolutely.
And that might be like, I don't know if you guys have thought about it that far in terms of like Blackmagic. I know the first instinct when it comes to Blackmagic is you save money, totally understand. But like when you get to a certain level of volume, you lose money because there's so much that goes into producing with Blackmagic.
Right.
So
I mean, for us, I think it's kind of been. I don't think we have quite the volume that you have. Like we've had some larger projects where it's been like you said, terabytes of footage. But at this point, I mean, I do have a 12 bay NAS storage, and And I am getting to the point where that's filling up, and I need to make some compromises as far as like I haven't been compressing my footage for the reasons you said. If a client comes back and wants to redo it,
And time.
yeah,
That's that administrative piece almost. Like, you would have to systematically go through, or it's an adding another step. So absolutely, that's
It
fine.
happens. Well, clients. I've had people come back because the spokesperson that was on camera was no longer with the company. I've had people come back because their logos changed. I've had people come back because they just want to shorten it. But it keeps that relationship going. If they come back to you for a re-edit, they might come back to you for an entirely different project. If you give them the ability to be like, hey, I'm not just a one and done kind of person. I can store all of your stuff. I can keep it for you. I've had people come back because they lost it. There's a lot of reasons for it. So I was like, I didn't mind archiving. I didn't mind transcoding it and making the file sizes smaller because my clients couldn't tell the difference between a 10-bit file or a 12-bit file and a 10-bit file. They couldn't tell the difference at all. And the what I shoot is very corporate, so there's not a lot of heavy grading anyways. But literally, as soon as I was done, I would load in all the clips to media encoder, transcode them down, and then archive them. And that was taking up a lot of time. And it was just taking up a lot of time. And the file sizes are already small on Sony, and that that was the biggest reason. Why I switched.
That's a phenomenal case for it, though, and I think it's really helpful. Like, at no point really have you expressed that the quality was what was sacrificed in any of that. It really came down to, again, this strategy of like, how do I save time? How do I save money so that I can put my energy into the work?
Yeah, and there's diminishing returns with quality too. Like, you put them up side by side with 99% of your clients, and they won't be able to tell. So like, I've shot on a GH4 and I've shot on the 6K Pro and I've shot on the FX3. I can shoot the same project on all three cameras. My clients won't be able to tell the difference. I will, because I'm a camera nerd and I can pixel peep. But the clients don't. Like, they just care about the final product. They care about the logistics. They care about the communication. They care about the goal. They care about everything but quality. Like, quality is like, you have to have it to be in there. But if that's all you have, then you really have, like, you don't have everything that the client needs. So
well, and I think when a client is thinking about quality, they're thinking about it in terms of, is this getting our message out there in a compelling way? They're not thinking about like, is this 12-bit or 10-bit? Right?
Well, they think, does it look professional?
Exactly.
That's what I hear all the time. Like, oh, that looks professional, and it's their way of expressing like there's a certain representation of them and their brand that ups what they've had before, and so that's the part of the value that they perceive in that.
For sure. A lot of it could also be like in my experiences, like when people have rented Reds and they've rented Aris, like, it's great for big productions if you're really getting the use out of them, and to get that, like, if you have that workflow in place. But a lot of it just because if you are an agency, you have to justify what you're charging them. And if you show up with a FX3 versus showing up with a FX6 or FX9, or if you show up with 4K, Pocket 4K, Pocket 6K, or show up with the Ursa Mini 12, it's very different in person to the client. The client can see what they're spending money on. And not only that, it probably costs less than buying the equipment outright just to rent a Red. You can rent a Red for $300 a day, have that Red, clout, I guess, that some clients care about. But any camera on the market right now, $1,000, $1,500 is going to get you the same amount of quality. So it really just depends on what works best for your workflow. And for me, it's always business decisions. So like, what's going to save money and what's going to be, save time, save money and time. And for me, Sony was definitely the answer for that.
Well, and it kind of segueing into storage, you recently set up the NAS Synology, and we're really curious because we did that a while ago. What that experience has been like for you, what the learning curve has been, pros and cons that you've experienced so
Which
far.
hard drives did you get to fill it up with? That's what I'm curious about, because there's always the debate about shucking. So for those not familiar, shucking hard drives is when instead of buying like a dedicated server drive, you buy one of those external drives from like Best Buy, open it up, take the drive out, and put that drive into your
interesting.
Synology because typically they're a little bit cheaper, and they say that you can get away with. But I have experienced some failures with shucking that has pushed me back to using what do they call, like, enterprise level drives or drives that are made for servers, you know, because even though I'm not using it in those server grade drives in the capacity that they would be like in a data center, because that's what they're rated for, is like a data center kind of environment with the heat, the vibration and stuff. I've noticed that the ones that aren't rated for that do have issues
Have
eventually.
failures with them. Yeah, hard drive failures on a bell curve, like they if they're going to fail, they're going to fail in the first few days or few weeks that you have it on, and if they don't, then they'll probably last for years. In terms of the kind
It's like
of
relationships, right?
yeah, exactly. It's on a bell curve. You'll know whether it's going to work or not right at the beginning. But in terms of the kind that I got, I did get drives meant for NASs, but the actual ones that I chose was because of the name, and I just like it. It's just so cool to say. I got the Iron Wolves. I got 16 terabyte Iron Wolf drives. And the post that you had seen about me building my NAS recently, that was actually my second one. Okay. So I did have, I actually built my first NAS I want to say it's probably been about a year and a half now. But at the time it was limited to 32 terabytes, and I had a good system of backing up, you know, my footage on my drives and then my footage on my NAS. And eventually it's a long story, but like eventually I was like, you know, I need two. You know, you have to have two NASs or two servers eventually, because you want to have that redundancy for your clients. You want to be able to say that you're never going to lose footage. And having a RAID, you know, NASs in a RAID storage. Oh, sorry.
Motion detected at driveway.
It's probably
Mail.
Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But having that redundancy in RAID isn't really redundancy at all if your house burns down. If your house burns down, then you need a second server off-site. Yeah. So I got two, and both of them were at 32 terabytes, and I have filled them up. So recently I had upgraded to 8 drives in each bay, and now I'm kind of maxed out at like 88 terabytes per NAS. But they mirror each other every hour on the hour. So like every hour they just mirror each other. The second one is off-site, about 30 minutes away. I can just, you know, if this house burns down, God forbid, I can drive there, pick it up. My business is still in shape.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally.
Yeah. It's insurance. It's just.
It's insurance.
Yeah. How do you? I'm curious. Like, how do you build that into your cost structure? Do you have a line item for storage, or do you just kind of build that into your overall rate that gets absorbed?
I used to build it into raw footage. Okay. I used to just charge for raw footage. Now I don't charge for raw footage. It used to be just like a $100 50 fee for raw footage. Most people rarely ask for it anyway, so it was never something that I could track. But really, at this point, it's just the cost of doing business. Every few years, you're going to have to spend money on storage. Yeah. If you're still buying like just drives, then those every few years turns into every few weeks. Every few weeks, every few months, you're going to buy drives. They're going to fill up. They're going to take up space in your house. You're going to have to plug them in. You're going to have plug issues. Those external drives might fail because they might just topple over. And the only reason why I'm so aware of this situation is because when I was at that network job, my old boss, he was a host for a TV show, and he had been a host for a TV show for 40 plus years. He's in the hunting space. I'm not a hunter by any means. I don't hunt, I don't fish. I'm not outdoorsy. I'm an indoor cat, you know. He shot on tape for all those years, and it wasn't until 2008 that he went to digital. So he had a closet, probably about the size of this room, of tapes. And 10% of my job was digitizing those tapes to external hard drives. Yeah. And that same closet was filling up with external hard drives now. And it's only like, I left the company, but it was like a year or two after I left that they had finally implemented a server. And started adding, you know, everything that they had on the server. and they have 2 editors, so everybody could connect to the server. That's another reason why having a NAS is very beneficial. I currently have an editor right now that has access and is able to download from it and upload to it, and it's pretty hands-free. So redundancy is big, saving money is big. Yeah, over time too, like it's a huge cost up front to have 2 Synology NASs, but it saves money in the long run. And yeah, that's pretty much the Synology.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the Synology's really, they got the game. I mean, there's other options out there, other brands, but I've found over the years, that the quality and the user interface is just like, we even use like ours for home security for, because our part of one of our studios in our home, and then we also have a suite downtown, but it comes with 2 free camera licenses, and they're so our home security is our cameras are tied into Synology, and it's nice because they never touch the cloud. It goes directly from the cameras, they're PoE Ethernet right into the NAS, so it's a direct connection. And as nice peace of mind. So it's just overall as a brand, and like the way that they operate, I like.
Yeah, I love Synology, and really, it's really easy to set up at first. I would say whenever you're getting into setting 2 of them up and having them like mirror and want to also talk about like security, it's always good to consult with a professional on that too. Right now, there's this guy on YouTube, Space Rex. He's like probably the biggest like Synology dude. You may have already heard of him if you're into Synology. You can actually hire him as a consultant for like an hour. Yeah, and he can like, it just it's a Zoom call. It's like an hour Zoom call, and he basically just goes into your system, sets the whole thing up. He set up the backup situation that I have right now.
Oh, cool.
And he does it all the time. But like that, it was such a game changer because like, and that's like another thing that I always tell like new people just starting in. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and you have to be okay with not knowing, and you have to recognize that. And if you don't know something, you can always learn it, or you can always consult with a professional and then learn it. Because if I tried to set up my Synologies myself, if I tried to set up that whole thing, I'm sure it would have been already like it's just
and it's a business decision, right? Like you will save more time and money by spending a little bit of time and money up front to learn, and that you have to make those decisions.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, like that's a very collaborative mindset, or willing mindset, I guess, to ask for help where we just don't know what we don't know. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about the culture here in San Antonio and like what you've experienced, is what this market is like as far as video production goes. Is it collaborative? Is it competitive? Is it...
So that wraps up part 1 of our interview with Michael Angelo of San Antonio Video Productions. Go check him out. He actually, since we recorded this, started a podcast of his own called Return on Visuals. So if you just search for San Antonio Video Productions on YouTube, you can see his first episode that he launched in June. And then you can also see his Instagram and his Facebook and LinkedIn. We'll link that in the podcast description below. So thanks for joining us. If you want to reach out to us, you can always email us at podcast@slabvisuals.com, and you can find the podcast. It's on YouTube. You can watch it there or listen to it anywhere that podcasts are found. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for part 2. Go create something.